Thank you very much to Miss or Mrs. Miss
Miss.
Sonia.
Ya,
Miss Sonia. Okay, thank
ya
you very
Bante.
much for introducing me. And it is my honor that today I get a chance, opportunity to share the teachings of the Buddha. And so whether the member now is all from embassy,
Yes,
from
Bante.
embassy, yeah.
Yes,
Embassy of Netherlands in Indonesia,
yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you very much. That's today, this morning, especially, I got the chance to share the teachings of the Buddha, and I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say. Because for a long time, actually, I don't use my English for a long time, and actually, as I already mentioned by Miss Noni, that I went to Sri Lanka, and I went back to Indonesia on 2013, and until now I am staying in Indonesia, and at present I'm staying in Magelang in Central Java, but being entrusted to be the head of Buddhist College in Malang in Batu, East Java. So if you go to East Java, especially in Batu, so you find one temple, one monastery, and inside the temple, so there's the Buddhist College, Kertarajasa Buddhist College. So you can find there are a lot of Buddhist monks there, not only just Buddhist monks, but even the Buddhist nuns. And I am teaching there also, but of course in Indonesia. Okay, and I got the information from Miss Noni that this morning I am being asked to explain about especially the Buddhism in Indonesia, and then after that I would like to explain about Buddhism in general. So when we try to understand Buddhism in Indonesia, we can actually trace back as far as 1,000 years ago. So there are some facts that we can see that Buddhism already existing in Indonesia for 1,000 years ago by means of archaeological and also literature. So with regard to literatures, we can find that in Indonesia, of course, in Indonesia, there are some not very long literatures, not very ancient literatures, but about like 500 or 600 years ago, some literatures like Praraton and also Negara Kertagama, and I think that's literatures at the time was taken to Netherlands, but then being sent back to Indonesia, and now it's already being translated in Indonesian language, and that literature is also talking about the existence of Buddhism in Indonesia. But of course, there are some other records that we can find to understand that Buddhism already existing in Indonesia for like 1,500 years ago, starting about that. And especially the record that now we can see from the Chinese record. So according to one record in China, that there was one Buddhist monk from Kashmir, from India, actually Kashmir, and he was actually before becoming monk was actually the prince, but then he got the ordination in India to be a monk, to be a Buddhist monk, and some people said that he was actually being ordained as the Theravadins, not as Mahayana Theravadin Buddhist monk, but that is more to one school of Theravada, that is Sarvastivada. And then from India, he went to Sri Lanka, according to the record, the Chinese record. That is that happened about the 5th century after Christ. And from Sri Lanka, and then he went to Java, that now we are living in Java, about 5th century after Christ. And then, and according to that record, that Chinese record, that most venerable Gunawarman in Indonesia, in Java, converting the king of Java and also his subject to practice Buddhism, to learn Buddhism and practice Buddhism. So that's the first record that we can find, that about the 5th century at least after Christ, Buddhism already spreading in Indonesia. But one of the most important record that we can find and to understand or to know that Buddhism already existing in Indonesia is the record that's written by Itzing, one of the pilgrims from China. As we all understand that in China, mostly the pilgrims from China, the Buddhist monk, mostly the pilgrims at the time, the ancient times, the Buddhist monks, when they took a journey to many countries like in India and also in Indonesia, they record all their events, all their experiences during their journey. And one of these pilgrims, a very famous one, is the Itzing. And according to that record, he went to Indonesia, especially he went to Sumatra. That's now in Sumatra, but at the time it's Sriwijaya. And according to that record, he also studied in Sriwijaya for 2 years, studied Buddhism. And he said that he saw many monasteries in Indonesia, even had like 1,000 Buddhist monks staying in that monastery. And he also recommend even to all the Buddhist monks from China who wanted to study in Nalanda University. So in India, there is Nalanda University, and that university was very famous and very large area, and that built about the third century after Christ until I think destroyed about 13th century after Christ. And then for many years actually in that University of Nalanda existing. And then this Itzing, as the Buddhist monk from China, recommended all the Buddhist monks from China who wanted to study in India first have to study in Indonesia, have to study in Sriwijaya University. And what is the reason? Because not only in Nalanda University that all the branches of arts, the Buddhist art, were being taught, but even in Sriwijaya University also all the branches of arts university also being taught at Sriwijaya University in Indonesia. So that is the reason why that Itzing also asked all the Buddhist monks from China to study in Indonesia. And from this we can find that about the 7th century, because this Itzing was living about the 7th century after Christ, that means in Indonesia, Buddhism already spread, and especially in Java and also Sumatra. And about the 10th century, we also, about not 9th century after Christ, we also had the one record that was found in India, and mentioning that one king from Java, the name is Balaputra from Java, that means our Java now, sending some Buddhist monks to India, to Nalanda University. And the king of India also providing some villages to support the monks from Indonesia. So this is also the fact that we can understand that Buddhism already existing in Indonesia 1,000 years ago. That is literally. But archaeologically, of course, we can understand there are many Buddhist sites, ancient Buddhist sites are scattering in many places in Indonesia, in Bali, in Java, and also in Sumatra. And one of the greatest of it is, of course, Borobudur. That Borobudur was actually built about the 9 or 8 or to 9th century after Christ, about 100 years to build this Borobudur temple that now we can all see. So this is in Java, and also if you go to Sumatra, you also will find one very large area that I just mentioned about the Sriwijaya University. So very large area in Sumatra that now we call as the Muaro Jambi in Lampung, not Lampung, in Jambi. So we can find like thousands of hectares, the area as the Buddhist site. So we can find a lot of stupa and some findings like the Buddha statue, the Bodhisattva statues. So that also the fact that Buddhism already existing not only in Java but also in Sumatra 1,000 years ago. But then, about 500 years ago, Buddhism can be considered completely gone from Indonesia, especially the Buddhist people. But of course, the so-called the teachings, the way of life, of course, still being practiced. But as the the number of the people, the Buddhist people can be said already gone about 500 years ago. So it is when in the times of kingdom, the Javanese kingdom being led by the Brawijaya, the King Brawijaya. So according to the some records, some books, some literatures about that 500 years ago, the Buddhism, the Buddhist peoples are gone from Indonesia. But then around 1934, this era, 1934, this century, some Buddhist monk from Thailand, or not from Thailand, but from Sri Lanka, came to Indonesia, being led by one of the very famous monk from Sri Lanka, the most venerable Narada, and together with some group of Theosophy. And I think some of the Theosophy people are from British, and mostly from British, and they came to Indonesia and to to study about the Buddhist culture. I mean the Japanese cultures, and they also find out that even though Buddhism is gone, I mean the Buddhist people are already not existing at the time, but the way of life of these Indonesian people, especially the Japanese people, as well as the Chinese people, are actually in accordance to Buddhism. So at that time, this most venerable Narada and some other people from the Theosophy group, they starting to to teach about the teachings of the Buddha to the people. And at the time, just like the 10 people try to learn what Buddhism is, and ultimately, little by little, and then some people, some Japanese people, also becoming Buddhists, try to learn Buddhism, and especially those Japanese who actually not really, not really practicing this like the Islam teaching, the Muslim teaching, but you know that in Java, in many places in Indonesia, not only just in Java, in Bali, Java, Kalimantan, and many places, some people are actually practicing about the we can say this local religion, local belief, not as the Islam, the local beliefs, and we call in Java we call kejawen. That is the belief in Java. So they believe they practicing the local belief, and when they compare this their belief with Buddhism, so they have the similarities. They have not going against each other. So that's why when the governments of Indonesia impose this rule to the people that all the people need to have religions, and some of these people, after learning Buddhism and have the similarities about Buddhism and also this their local beliefs, so they prefer to be a Buddhist, and some of these peoples are preferring to be a Buddhist. So that's why from that 1934 and Buddhism starting to spread, and not only just a Buddhist monk from Sri Lanka, but also some other Buddhist monk from Thailand and also from Myanmar, especially if you know that's one of the greatest Buddhist meditator, the meditation teacher in Myanmar, the most venerable Mahasi Sayadaw, also came to Indonesia to teach meditation, to teach Buddhism in Indonesia. So from that time, Buddhism starting to spread. But somehow, many informations about Buddhism coming from many countries, from China, from Sri Lanka, from Thailand, from Myanmar. And because of we Indonesian people, especially the Buddhist peoples, we can say accept all the tradition that come from many sources, from many countries. So now in Indonesia, we have a lot of Buddhist schools. And we can say in Indonesia now we have the three main Buddhist schools. One is the Mahayana, another one is a Tantrayana, another one is a Theravada. As I myself is the Theravada, and even in the Theravada also there are some schools like I myself with the other Buddhist monk, actually we get ordinations with the lineage from Thailand, from actually one of the Buddhist school, the Theravada Buddhist schools in Thailand, Dhammayuttika. So we as a Theravada in Indonesia also get the lineage from Thailand, especially the Dhammayuttika. But also there are some other Buddhist monks from Thailand, I mean from Indonesia, but get ordination from Thailand, also having the other school, not as the Dhammayut, but other school, like Mahanike, also existing in Indonesia. And not only that, and nowadays we also have some Buddhist schools in Indonesia, like from Myanmar, yeah, especially from Myanmar. And then Sri Lanka is no, even though in the very beginning the Sri Lankan monks who actually spread Buddhism in Indonesia, but at present there is no any Sri Lankan Buddhist monk in Indonesia. And also there is no any school of Buddhism in Indonesia which is connected with Sri Lanka, but mostly from Thailand and also Myanmar. That is in the part of Theravada Buddhism in Indonesia. And but also there is another school of Buddhism that is Mahayana, and that Mahayana is coming especially from China. And also they have the very large organization and some many Buddhist monks in Mahayana tradition. Another one is Tantrayana, and that Tantrayana is having their lineage from Tibet, Tibetan Buddhism. And this is about the Buddhist schools, but also there are some organization, the Buddhist organization in Indonesia. Like one is a Theravada as the one of the Buddhist school, but at the same time also as the organization, as the Buddhist organization. And then another one is there is one very big organization is the Buddhayana, and Buddhayana is there's inside that Buddhayana organization has various schools of Buddhism. So inside there is a Theravada, Mahayana, Tantrayana, and then they get together and then they make one of the big organization, Buddhist organizations in Indonesia. So this is about that's Buddhism in Indonesia, especially that about the schools of Buddhism in Indonesia. But somehow when we are talking about the practice, about these the teaching that we try to learn and also practice in our daily life about this Buddhism in Indonesia, so basically we have the same practice. Because even though we are as a Theravada and also some others from Buddhayana, but we also have the same scripture, the Buddhist scripture. We have the same Buddhist scripture, what we call as the Tipitaka. So that Tipitaka and the Buddhist scriptures in Buddhism that become these our guidelines to understand Buddhism and to practice Buddhism. And in that Buddhist scripture, we have the teachings of the Buddha, and even though some texts are different, because when we learn Buddhism, like from Tipitaka, another one from other scripture like Tripitaka, so we have to understand that Tipitaka and the Tripitaka is different. The two different Buddhist scripture. Tipitaka is written in Pali language, and that is being taken as the authority of learning Buddhism from Theravada, and while Tripitaka is written in Sanskrit language, or in Indonesia we call Sanskerta. So that is actually being practiced by Mahayana. And there are some texts which are different, but somehow the main teachings of Buddhism, the main teachings of the Buddha, the main teaching of all the Buddhist schools are actually the same, not different. So what are the main teachings of Buddhism in many schools, either Theravada, Mahayana, Tantrayana, about the Four Noble Truths. So what we are practicing in Indonesia, as we as the Theravada, as the Mahayana, as the Buddhayana, as the Tantrayana, all are about the Four Noble Truths. About we have to understand what is the Dukkha, what is the cause of Dukkha, what is the cessation of Dukkha, and what is the way leading to the cessation of Dukkha. So what is Dukkha? So Dukkha has been translated by many people as the suffering. So we have to understand what is suffering. So actually, this suffering is the term dukkha, even though it is being translated as suffering, it is not what we think about suffering in the normal understandings or usual understanding or the general understanding, but this term dukkha has the wider meaning, not the narrow meaning that normally people understand what suffering is, but has the wider meaning. And actually, basically, in Buddhism, when we talk about the practice, about the practice of Buddhism, the practice of the teachings of the Buddha is about how we practice a certain, the practical way or certain way of life that lead to the happiness, that lead to the cessation of suffering. And now some people think when they just try to learn Buddhism, they think that Buddhism is a kind of pessimistic teaching. Because as soon as they look inside the teaching of the Buddha said about suffering. The Buddha said about dukkha, the dukkha being translated as suffering. So some people think Buddhism is a kind of pessimistic teaching, but actually not. Actually, that is we have to understand what suffering is, and ultimately Buddhism taught us how we have to get rid of suffering, taught us how we have to be freed from suffering. So the teaching of the Buddha leading us to happiness, leading us to freedom, leading us to the liberation, the freedom from suffering. So first we have to understand suffering. Of course, when we see inside our life, especially in our daily life, we all experience suffering. We all experience unsatisfactoriness in our life. But the suffering that we experience is normally the general suffering. So this is also the part of suffering. What is the general suffering? It is about the intrinsically suffering that we all experience in our daily life. Like we get old, we get sickness, sometimes we do not get what we want, and sometimes we also have to associate with people or condition which actually we don't like, we don't want, and sometimes we have to separate from those people or from condition we actually like, we actually love, and all these are actually the suffering that normally people understand. And of course, this is also suffering. But in Buddhism, the so-called suffering is not only about this suffering, which is intrinsically suffering, but also all the things can be considered as suffering in terms of impermanency. Buddhism, even the Buddha himself, of course, talked about happiness. There are two kinds of happiness. First is a happiness that we can gain from these sensual pleasures. When we see the object, the beautiful object, we get happy. We get a pleasant feeling. That is happiness. When we eat nice food, and then we get the pleasant feeling, that is also happiness. When we listen to the sound, beautiful sound, and we get the pleasant feeling, that is also happiness. So this is happiness. In certain point, that is happiness. But because even this happiness, this pleasant feeling is subject to change, is ever changing, we cannot maintain as long as possible that we want this pleasant feeling. So in Buddhism, this pleasant feeling is also to be considered as a part of suffering. So the suffering is not only just because intrinsically suffering that we experience, but also because the impermanency. So everything which is impermanent, everything, all the things which are impermanent, which are subject to change, that we cannot maintain as long as we want, that also to be considered as dukkha, as suffering. But in one part, that is happiness itself. When we experience a pleasant feeling, but because that happiness is subject to change, that is impermanence, so that happiness itself also to be considered as dukkha, as suffering. Especially when we attach, when we cling to that happiness, and at the same time the happiness cannot be maintained ourselves, or sooner or later will change, will disappear, will be gone. So normally when we attach to that happiness, and then when it is gone, we get disappointed, we get unpleasant feeling. That disappointment, that unpleasant feeling because of attachment, that is suffering. So the suffering in Buddhism is not only just about, because just now I told that because it is intrinsically suffering, but also because impermanency. So whatever things which is impermanence, it is to be considered as suffering, as dukkha. And when we just learn about this suffering, about this dukkha, and then just only learn about dukkha, and then we think Buddhism is a pessimistic teaching. Buddhism is a kind of the teaching that just talking about suffering. Why Buddhism doesn't talk about happiness? No, Buddhism talk a lot about happiness, because not only just the Buddha show us about the existence of suffering, but also he shows us the cause, the reason why we get suffered, the reason why we get this dukkha. What is the reason? The reason is nothing else than this craving, this attachment, this clinging. Because we cling, because we attach, because we crave, this is what actually the reason why we get suffering. For example, actually, just mere impermanence, it is not suffering. For example, we get old, just mere old, our body becoming old, just mere old, it is not suffering. But when we crave, when we attach to our youth, we attach to our youth. So when we attach to our youth, and then the old will come to us, there is the changing from the youth to the old, that is the suffering. But when we accept the impermanency as it is, we accept there is no suffering. But when we want, when we crave to be always getting youth, that is the suffering. So likewise, just a mere sickness, the bodily sickness is not suffering. But when we crave to be always healthy, we do not want to get sick. We do not accept the sickness that happened to us, that is the suffering. So the suffering is because of this craving, this attachment, this clinging. So the more we attach to something, the more we cling to something, the more we will experience the suffering, the more we will get the suffering. So therefore, in order to be freed from this suffering, from this dukkha, we have to get rid of, we have to eliminate this attachment, this clinging. So the happiness which the Buddha recommend to us is not about just mere happiness because of we see the beautiful sight, we listen to the beautiful sound, we eat something nice food, and then we get what we want. No. But in Buddhism, the happiness, the true happiness is that when we get rid of, especially the attachment, the clinging, and all the other things, especially the defilements of mind. So Buddhism taught us that all the suffering, all the conflicts, all the sufferings, all the bad things in the world are caused by the defilements of mind, by the mental pains. So therefore, in order to get rid of this suffering, in order to attain the freedom, in order to attain especially the true happiness, the true freedom, true liberations, we have to eliminate these negative mental thoughts. We have to eliminate the defilements of mind. And these defilements of minds are rooted from the three root unwholesome mental states. One is the greed, the second is the hatred, and the third one is the delusion or non-understanding. not understanding what is right, what is wrong, what is beneficial, what is harmful, what should be developed, what should be cultivated, what should be abandoned. Not understanding all these things, especially what's right and wrong, that is a delusion. That is also the reason why we get suffering. So these three unwholesome roots, and these three unwholesome roots, that should be abandoned, should be eliminated. So actually, these attachments, the craving, and the clinging, the same as the attachment, are actually also coming from the three unwholesome roots: the greed, hatred, and delusion. So now, the third noble truth, so I mentioned in the very beginning, there are four noble truths. That is, the truth of suffering and the cause of suffering. And the third is the cessation of suffering. So the truth of the cessation of suffering is none other than the cessation of mental defilements, the cessation of clinging, craving, or attachment. So the fourth truth, as the practical way, as the way of life, as the Buddhist, is the truth about the way, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. So, what is the way leading to the cessation of suffering? So, this way is the way which brings about the cessation not only suffering, but the cessation of the cause of suffering. And that way is none other than the Noble Eightfold Path. So, when we are talking in Buddhism about the practice, of the Buddhist people, what we are practicing in our daily life, either as the Buddhist monks or as the lay people, as the Buddhist people, what are the practice of the Buddhist people is none other than this, the Noble Eightfold Path. So what is the Noble Eightfold Path? It is about the first, we have to have the right view. We have to have the right view. The right view is very important, because when our view is wrong, our view is not right, and then all the speech, all the actions also will be wrong. So in the right view should have, what is the right view? One is that we have to understand, as just now I mentioned, we have to understand that all the things in the world is impermanence. When something which is impermanence being attached, that is the cause of suffering. So this is the right view. Another right view is that we have to understand that all the things in the world is about the cause and effect. About the cause and effect. So when we are doing something bad as the cause, and the effect also will be bad, that is suffering. So we are doing bad actions, also will give result the suffering. But when we are doing a good actions, when we are doing wholesome actions by speech, by bodies, or by mind, also will give a result, will lead to a result. So this understanding the view about the cause and effect, that all the good things will bring the happiness, all the bad things will bring the suffering, and we have this right view, that is also something that we have to have, because only when we have the right view, so our speech, our action also will be good, will be not giving harm to others. So right view is very important. And the second factor is about the right intentions. After having the right view, and then what we intend, what we think, what we intend, and our life also will be good, will be beneficial to oneself and also to others, not giving harm to oneself and to others. When we have the right view, and then we also have the right intention. So when this right view and right intentions, and then the third factor is we will have the right speech. Our speaking, our way of speaking also will be good. I mean, for something that's not like there are in Buddhism. Actually, there are four kinds of speech that we have to avoid. One is the harsh speaking, the harsh speech. Another one is a telling lie. Another one is the speech that brings about something division to some people. Another one is the speaking which is unbeneficial. Something is speaking which is not beneficial. So the four kinds of speech should be avoided in Buddhism. But instead of speaking about these bad speech, so we are being encouraged to speak like the truth and beneficial, and we have to speak, something which bring the happiness to our heart, to our minds, happy to make our yeah, happy to our listener. So this is what we have to try to speak to others. So this is what we call as the right speech, as the fourth, as the third factor of this the noble eightfold path. Another one is the right action. So not only just the right speech, but also right action. Of course, that all can be done only when we have the right view, right intentions. So that right speech and right action also will come to our life. Another one is that we have to have the right livelihood. What is the right livelihood? The right livelihood is the we have to have a kind of job, a kind of livelihood which is not bringing harm to oneself and others. So the right livelihood the livelihood that we have to have is the livelihood, the job that bring the happiness, bring the beneficial to oneself and also the others, to the society. So this is also important. And another factor, that the sixth factor, is the right effort. So what is right effort? This is the effort that's connected with the effort to eliminate whatever defilements of mind which already arises. So when we understand, when we see that our mind has been being overcome by the defilements of mind, like greed or hatred or delusions or like the jealousy and envy. So we have to make an effort. We have to make an effort to produce an effort how to eliminate these incoming defilements of mind that already rises. And also we have to develop wholesome states of mind which already arises. So for example, we have this loving kindness in our heart, in our mind. We have the loving kindness, we have the compassion, we have this the passion, the concentration, the mindfulness. All these mental good developments, wholesome states of mind that already, if we know that we have all these good mental states, and then we have to develop. So this is the effort. And also the effort to prevent whatever defilements of mind which has not risen. So when the defilements of mind has not risen, we have to prevent from arising. And we have to cultivate the effort to cultivate all the wholesome states of mind which has not been developed. For example, if we don't have the faith, if we don't have this compassion, if we don't have this, the readiness to give, the readiness to give in our Pali language we call chaga, the readiness to give, to help others. So we have to develop. We have to how to cultivate. We have to how to make it rises. This readiness to give to others, readiness to help to others. So this is the effort, the right effort. And the seventh factor of this noble eightfold path is the right mindfulness. To be mindful. This is what actually Europeans and also Westerners now very famous to practice meditation, the mindfulness meditation. And this right mindfulness is which is to be practiced in this meditation, mindfulness meditation. So the Buddha said that in order to get rid of these defilements of mind, in order to attain the liberation, in order to get the happiness in our life, be free from suffering, one of the factors among these noble eightfold path is this right mindfulness, to be mindful all the time. Why we have to be mindful in ourselves, to be mindful with regard to our mind and body? Because when we are not mindful in our life, so a lot of defilements of mind will arise. Why we have to be mindful? Because when we have the mindfulness, When we mindful in all our activities, while speaking, while we are while we are seeing, listening, and so on, all the activities we are mindful, we are doing that with mindfulness. So we will see if there is defilements of mind arises in our mind, and then we will see, oh, the defilements already overcome of mind. So with mindfulness, we can detect any arising defilements of mind, so that the opportunity, the chance to eliminate is possible. But if we don't have mindfulness, so when these defilements of mind arises, we do not see, we do not detect, we are unable to detect if we don't have mindfulness. But when we are mindful in our activities, we are all mindful to our minds and body. So when these defilements of mind, this greed, the hatred, the jealousy, the attachment, the craving rises within our minds, and then as soon as it rises, and we will be able to detect. So when we are able to detect, when we detect these arising defilements of mind, so we have the opportunity to eliminate these defilements of mind. So this is why we have to be mindful. Right mindfulness is also important. So when these 7 factors among the 8 factors in the Noble Eightfold Path is being developed, and then so we will get what we call as the right concentration. So our concentration in our life will be good concentration, will be right concentration, because we have this right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, and also right mindfulness. To be mindful in our all activities, mindful in our mind and body. So this is the Noble Eightfold Path. But of course, if we don't remember each and every this path, this factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, so there are simple understanding that we can keep and easily to be keep in our mind. What is a practice in Buddhism? There are 3 lines. One is the not doing any evil actions. So whatever things which is harmful to oneself and to others, we are trying not to do that. Any evil actions by speech or by body, like killing, stealing, doing sexual misconduct, telling lie, harsh speech, and so on, an evil action which is bringing harm to oneself and to others, and then this we do not do. So avoiding any evil action, this is the fun. And the second one is that we are doing any good actions, helping others, giving something to others for their happiness, all the things which are, something, not avoiding the evil, but doing something better, doing something good to others. This is the second one that we need to do. And the third one is that we try to purify our mind from the defilements of mind. So already I said that whatever defilements of mind which arises in our mind, whatever it is, to create hatred, delusion, whatever defilements of mind which now rises in our minds, we try to eliminate. We try to purify our mind from these defilements of mind. So only just 3 things. When we are practicing these 3 things, one is avoiding any evil actions, another one is doing any good actions, and the third one, we always watch our minds. We always protect our mind from defilements of mind in order to purify our mind. Only just these 3 things already include all the practice of Buddhism. And these 3 things are the way how to get rid of suffering, the way how to get rid of the cause of suffering, and the way how to get the happiness, the liberation, the true happiness. So actually, this is the main teaching of the Buddha, being practiced by all the Buddhist traditions, not only just Theravada, but also Mahayana, Tantrana, and all other Buddhist traditions in Indonesia, in some other countries, all this Buddhist tradition only practicing these four. That is, try to understand these four. That is the Four Noble Truths. But the way of life, the practice that we are practicing in order to understand these four is nothing else, none other than this, the Noble Eightfold Path. If you don't remember about the Noble Eightfold Path, because there are 8 factors there, so just doing 3 things: avoiding any evil actions, doing any good actions, and the third one, purify our mind from these mental defilements or these mental things. That's we have to do in Buddhism. And to do that, of course, we have to practice as much as possible the good thing in our life, and one of that is to practice meditation. And again, when we are talking about meditation, the Buddhist meditation is actually not just about concentration. Now we are talking meditation, then we have to concentrate to one thing. But in Buddhism, the so-called meditation is these 3 things. The so-called meditation is the way how to eliminate these defilements of mind. So when we have the effort, when we produce the effort in our life to eliminate whatever incoming defilements of mind which already arises, so this is the meditation in Buddhism. Even while we are talking, and then we understand, oh, there is a defilements of mind, there is a taints of mind, and then at the time, and then we stop our talking, and then we try to eliminate that defilements of mind. That is the Buddhist meditation. While we are seeing the object, and then we have the greed in our mind, and then we try to be mindful to that greed, and then we try to how to eliminate that greed, and then that is also the Buddhist meditation. So the Buddhist meditation is about not about just concentration, but about how to be mindful in our life. Mindful in the sense that we have to, just developing what is good and eliminating what is bad, what is giving harm to oneself and others. So this is the Buddhist meditation, and this is also the way how to eliminate our mind. So this is thank you very much for what I want to say this morning, and I hope you can understand what I'm saying. Thank you very much, and I return the time to Miss Noni.
Anumodana Bante atas pembabaran yang telah diberikan. Thank you for today's lesson. And I would like to ask my colleague maybe to give some questions. Is there anyone? Okay. Ibu Suni, if you want to start first.
Yes, good morning, Biku. It was very, hello?
Yeah,
Bu
good
Suni,
morning.
Yeah, it was very, very inspiring to hear what you were telling to us. Would you be so kind to explain what is the meaning, the real meaning of karma? Because what you're telling us has to do with karma, of course. But I hear everywhere some explanations about karma, but maybe you can explain the right what means karma exactly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mrs. Fansuli, for questions. Yes. About karma is one of the teaching taught by the Buddha. Actually, the term karma, that is a two term. One is a karma, another one is karma. Karma is actually coming from the Pali language, and karma is coming from this Sanskrit language. But the meaning of karma and karma is the same. What is the meaning of karma or karma is the action. Now we have to understand karma means action. So in this law of actions we can say in this law of karma, the Buddha says, even in the Hinduism also says that all our actions, whatever we are doing by speech and by body and of course by mind, the 3 kinds of actions, mind, body and speech, will bring the result. All our action will bring result. And the formula of this law of karma is that the bad actions will bring the suffering, and the good action will bring the happiness. What is the bad action? All kinds of actions which bring the harmful, which bring the unpleasant feeling to oneself and others, unpleasant feeling in the sense of harmful, like killing, stealing, doing sexual misconduct, telling lie, whatever things which is harmful, that is the bad action. All these actions will bring the suffering to oneself and also to others. And not only in Buddhism and also in Hinduism, that result of karma, the result of action, not only bring the harmful in this very life, but also even in the future life. So when there is karma, also there is the rebirth, or in Hindu they call as a reincarnation, but in Buddhism we call it rebirth. So when there is the karma, the actions also will bring about the rebirth in the future. After that, there is no, after we die, that is not the end of our life, but we have to continue our life to another world, another realm. So that is rebirth. So when we are doing the bad actions in this very life, we get the suffering in this very life and also after death. But when we are doing the good action, just I mentioned, we are avoiding all any evil actions and we are doing any good action, helping others. We are not telling lies, we are just telling the truth. And then we are helping the other people, other beings, not instead of killing, but we are trying to help others. And instead of stealing, but we are giving others. Instead of doing sexual misconduct, but we are being loyal to your wife, to your husband. So this is the good action, and all this good action will bring the happiness. So all the action will bring the result depending on the action. The good action bring the happiness, and the bad action bring the suffering. But now in Indonesia, sometimes not only Indonesia but in the world, when they are talking about karma means something bad. You see, when some people getting like accident, and then they said, "Oh, this is karma." Not only that, but even the good thing, when we are doing the good thing, like you are now becoming rich, you see, you are now becoming rich, you have the good life, that is also karma. Why now you get the good life? Why you now you get the richness? Because you are doing the good thing, either in the past life or in the present life. It is according to Buddhism. You are doing the good thing, you have the effort, the good effort, you are doing something good, and then you get, the happiness. You had a good life. So this is also karma. So karma not only just about the bad, not only about something like when people get accident, then we call karma, but even you are having the good life, you get the richness, you are having the good life with your family. So this is also karma. That is also the result of karma. That means we are doing the good things, and then the result is the good to us. The result is the happiness for us. But when we are doing the bad things, the bad action by mind, by speech, mind and body, also we get the suffering. So this is the law of karma. Karma means action, and the result of karma in Pali language that I mentioned in the earlier is pala, and now in Indonesia becoming pahala. So in Pali we call pala, and then now in Indonesia becoming pahala. Actually, this is the result of action, the result of karma. Karma is the action. Karma is not the result. The result is pala. Or this is the fruit of action. So I think this is my answer. So I hope you can understand what I'm answering just now.
Yes, thank you. I understand it. And how do you break the chain then? If you
Okay.
have bad karma, how do you break the chain?
Okay.
Or you have to do only good?
Yes. You have to do as much as possible the good action, the good karma. So only then you can break the bad karma. You have to do the as much as possible the good action. That's that what you have to do. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rico.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Yayam, I think the name, please.
Oh, yeah. Miss
Yeah,
Yayam, silakan.
yeah. Selamat pagi, good morning, Pak Biku and everyone. Um, as I hear, the Buddhism is about the inner me. It's about actually improve yourself. What if you get married and the other person doesn't have the same belief?
Can you repeat, because just now my internet is
Oh, okay. Yeah,
like
yeah, sorry. Yeah, the Buddhism is about the inner me. It's about improve yourself so others can also be improved. Um, how about when you get married to someone who doesn't have the same goals? Because usually they say it is best to marry one with its own belief, so you have one goal, easy road. I don't know how it is with Buddhism. How do you do that? Because it is about the inner me, and you
yeah,
are trying to improve yourself, and then you have someone you loved that has other
yeah,
goals.
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for the questions. I can
Thank
understand
you.
what you
Yeah.
want to say. Yeah, actually, first, that's in Buddhism, we have to be concerned first is ourselves. So before we change others, first we have to change ourselves. Actually, the changing others is the second task. The first task that we have to do is that changing ourselves. How we try to be better. Our mind, our body, and our speech, especially our mind, because all the speech of the action coming from our mind. So when our mind is our mind is right, and then our action coming right. So how we try our best to change our minds to be better, to get rid of the defilements of mind, to bring the positive thinking, positive thought in our life. After we somehow we are becoming better, and then we try to to spread our happiness to our spirituality to to the surroundings. Basically, when you have the husband, you have the children, you have the parents, you try to spread your happiness, your spirituality to the surroundings. But of course, you just try, but don't expect much, because when you expect much and then you get disappointed, because not all the people understand what we try to say, understand what we try to give to others, to those people. The most important is that ourselves try to spread that to others, but don't expect too much. We try our best, of course. It is not that we don't expect and then we don't try, but we try our best to teach others, to spread the spirituality to others, but don't expect too much. Because when we expect too much and then we get suffered, when especially the others do not understand what we want to give to others, to what we want to try to that people. So that means that's what we can do. And then another things that we have to understand is that sometimes we try to change the world, we try to change the surroundings. Sometimes we do that, but actually in Buddhism, even the Buddha himself, said like this is in Pali language. He said that tumhebi kichamatapa akataro tatagata, you yourself have to try, have to try. The Buddha is only paving the way, the Buddha is only giving the way, but you yourself have to try. So that means we also the same. We also to do, we just try to, like to give the way. We when we know the good way, the good life, how to develop our spirituality, and then we try to give to others. But we don't expect too much, because those who follow us is not because we lead them, but they themselves have to try. They themselves have to try. So this is that we have to understand. And the second one is that all the things in our external world can become our teacher. Like you said, that it is better if we have a wife or husband with the same goal. Of course, that is better because when we have the same goal, when our spouse, our wife, husband have the same goal, and then it will be easier because we have, they will understand each other. But we have to remember, in Buddhism, within this development or cultivation of the spirituality, all the external things, all the external worlds,
Bante boleh tolong diulang?
not the same goal with you. You see, sometimes perhaps you think, this is very bad. Why I get this husband not the same goal like me? Why my husband doesn't understand about the good thing, the good life? But remember, the external things, the external world, the external object can become your teacher, because when you have that kind of husband, you can learn by yourself how far you get the passion. Because we understand as to whether we have the good passion. I mean, we have this passion, the strong passion, only when we face unpleasant condition. But when we face the pleasant, everything is well, all is well, sometimes we do not understand as to whether our minds already developed or not, as to whether we have the passion or not. But when we face the bad condition, our husband so on, or sometimes lot of problems in our life. So when we face these bad conditions, we also can make that condition as our teacher to understand how much, how far the passion that I have already developed. So this is also the good things that we have to look at everything in a positive way, in a positive thing, not in the negative thing. But of course, if you have the good, the same goal with your husband, with your wife, that is of course better because that makes easier. But somehow when you have the different goal with your husband, and that is also something good because you can practice the passion. You can understand how far you have developed your passion. So this is also, we have to think, we have to look at everything in the positive way. Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Biko. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Yayam. Okay, I don't see any raised hand, so I'm going to read. In a moment, Ibu Suni, is it okay? I have questions from colleagues who cannot be here. So, yeah. One of the two questions from one colleague is, what are the commemorations that we celebrate in Buddhism? And also, is there any dietary restrictions as a Buddhist?
Okay, yeah, thank you for the questions. Yeah, in Buddhism, especially in the Buddhist world, not only just Indonesia, but in the world, we have the 4 kinds of religious holidays, that we commemorate. One is the Vesak Day. The second is the Asada Day. The third one is the Magha Puja Day. And then the fourth one is the Kathina Day. There are the 4 religious holidays in Buddhism. And among these 4, the most popular is the Vesak Day. And what is the Vesak Day? That is the day to commemorate, especially the 3 important events connected with the Buddha. That is the birth of the Buddha, that time as the Prince Siddhartha, and then the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, and the third one is the passing away of the Buddha. So these events, which actually happens in the same moon, in the full moon day, and in the same month is the Vesak month. So that is being commemorated, being celebrated by the Buddhists in the world. So this is the first one, and the second one is the Asada. The Asada day is the day when the Buddha was preaching his first discourse. So after he attained fully enlightenment as the Buddha, Buddha means a fully enlightened one because having enlightenment, so it is called Buddha. The name is actually the Siddhartha, the Siddhartha Gautama, and this Buddha is actually just that's the name because he was attaining the fully enlightened. So after attaining the fully enlightenment, and then not long after that, he preached the first discourse. It is called the Dhamma Cakkappavattana Sutta, the discourse on the turning wheel of the Dhamma, of the teaching, which comprises of the main teachings of him, the main teachings of the Buddha that just now I mentioned about the Four Noble Truths. So this is the second religious day in Buddhism that is called Asada Day. That is the second. That is the first actually the birth, the full enlightenment, and the passing away of the Buddha. And the second holiday in Buddhism is the day when the Buddha was preaching the first discourse, the discourse on the Four Noble Truths. That is the second day. And then this the third religious day in Buddhism that we celebrate is about the Magha Puja. So that is actually the event when the Buddha was being surrounded by 1,250 of his disciples, and all are being sainthood. So in Buddhism, when the person already got rid of all the defilements of mind, all these kind of mental things already in the mindset of being purified, that is what we call the saint in Buddhism, become the Buddhist Sainthood, and all of that time, this 1,250 already attained the fully, we can say, the enlightenment, because their minds are being freed from all the defilements of mind. So these 1,250 Buddhist monks, the disciples of the Buddha, at the time was get together, and they meet together without any invitation. So there is one uniqueness, that is they get together without any invitation. And also this monk, the Buddhist monks are very, and now we can say in Indonesia, sangat sakti. Sangat sakti sekali, mereka sakti sekali. I think from Netherlands cannot understand what is sakti. Very powerful, having the psychic powers. And this 1,250 monks having the psychic power, very powerful. They get together. So that event is being celebrated until now in the Magha Puja. We call Magha Puja. That is the third. And the fourth holiday, or the fourth religious holiday in Buddhism, is Kathina. Kathina is the day when lay people are providing especially the niche, the primary niche to the Buddhist monks. So before that Kathina, actually the Buddhist monks are staying in one place for 3 months. So monks are, every year we as monks are staying in one place for 3 months to do a lot of meditation. And then after we coming out from that retreat, we can say retreat for 3 months, and then the Buddhist lay people normally they will provide some primary needs to the monks. So that is the Kathina. Kathina means something, some lay people are giving something to the Buddhist monks. So that is the fourth one. So this is the holiday in Buddhism. But in Indonesia, of course, being recognized by the governments, only one is only the Vesak Day. While the other holidays are actually being celebrated by each and every Buddhist people in the world, but not necessarily as the holiday in the government. But in Indonesia, being recognized is only just one Vesak Day. Other three are not being recognized by the government. But that's okay. Okay, that is about the holidays, religious holidays that we commemorate. And then the second one, as you read, we in Buddhism have kind of prohibitions about the food. And it depends on this school, the Buddhist school. in Mahayana's goal, they believe that as the not only just Buddhists but also as the people need to have the vegetarian. They need to practice. They are not allowed to eat like the meat. They're not allowed. But in Theravada, we are still allowed to eat the meat, so there is no any prohibition in some certain. There is no any prohibition, but there are some other things that we are being prohibited to eat, especially like this. Because in Buddhism, we are being encouraged not to kill any living beings, even the smallest living beings like ants, like mosquito. We are not we are not supposed to eat. We are not supposed to kill. I mean, so that means that because we don't kill that any living beings, that means like we don't eat meat. No, we still can eat meat when that meat is already being provided as meat. But we we are encouraged not to kill. That means when we see by our eyes that beings or the creatures, for example, the chicken is being killed, we as the Buddhist monk, we are supposed not to eat that chicken. We are seeing by ourselves that chicken, for example, or any kinds of animal being killed, or we hear the sound, the cry of that animal which is being killed. So we are supposed not to eat as the Buddhist monk especially. And also when we have kind of a doubt as to whether this creature, this meat being provided by killing, and that killing is actually really because of us, because of, for example, like you're inviting me to eat, to get meal, and then you think, I will kill that chicken because that monk will come to my house, and then I have the doubt, that lay persons and that people kill that animal because of me. And if I have that doubt, and then we are not supposed to kill, we are not supposed to eat. So I don't eat that meat, because that will be, I will feel guilty if some people and then kill animals and then for the sake of myself. So I will feel guilty. We are not supposed to eat when we listen, when we listen the cry of that animal. So when we by our eyes see that animal is being killed, or we have the doubt as to whether that animal is killed because of us, and then we are not supposed to eat. And then another ones that we are not supposed to eat is some other animals like the snake, and then tigers, lions, hyena, and then elephant, dog, and then we are not supposed to eat. And of course, if I tell the story, there is some reasons about that in the times of the Buddha. Why, for example, now as a monk, we are not supposed to eat this snake, for example, because and there is one event, one happening at the time that monk was given the meat from this snake, and then another snake can smell that we are just eating the meat of snake, and then that snake being angry and then beating that monk with the poison, and that monk died because of that bite from the snake. And because of that reason, and then monk is not supposed to eat that snake, the meat snake. So that is one of the reasons. And of course, we are not supposed to eat the human flesh. that is also one thing that we are not supposed to do that. That is also prohibited.
Yeah.
But that should be prohibited. All is we are being prohibited to do evil actions. That is the most important. By speech, body, and mind, we are not supposed to do that.
Okay.
Not doing evil actions. So that's the answer from me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question.
Anumodana Bante. Ibu Suni tadi ada mau bertanya lagi.
Yes. One more. Yes, Pico.
Yeah.
Hello. I have so many
Yes.
questions, but I will only ask one question. It's not easy to synchronize heart, mind, and speech. Can you give some advice how to synchronize that? What you think you not always speak. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes it's not synchron, and what you feel. Yeah, it's not something easy to do to synchronize those three.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to practice. You see, we have to practice first. What we have to always protect is our mind, because the mind is a head. So all the speech and the actions comes from our mind. So when our mind is not being trained, when our mind have no any mindfulness, and then we are very easy.
Yeah.
Our speech, our bodily actions will just harming others. But when our mind is being trained to do good, always think about the positive thinking, positive thought, and then after long practice, and then we are all the speech or the action, the bodily action also will be synchronized with our mind. And how to do that, how to practice to be always see our mind, to train our mind, that is with mindfulness. We practice mindfulness, we are being mindful, we try our best to be mindful all the time, to be mindful with our mind, our action, our speech. It's okay at the very beginning. Sometimes we are just after we are talking about the bad things, and then we just remember, oh, this is not good. It's okay, no problem. But when we are always try to be mindful all the time, I mean, so we are practicing mindfulness, and then this mindfulness becoming stronger and stronger, and then that also will give the good effect to our speech and our body. So that means we have to train our minds to always think about the positive thoughts, and with what? With mindfulness. We practice mindfulness, always being mindful to what we are doing now. And with this mindfulness, the stronger mindfulness we have, and then the better our mind, and the better also our speech and also action. So we have to,
Action.
yeah,
Yeah.
action. That's
Karma again. Thank you so much, Biko. Thank
okay.
you
You're
so much.
welcome. Welcome. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Is there anyone else who would like to? Okay, I see Robert raising
Yes,
his hand.
I have a question. What do Buddhists believe when you're going to die? Is there some kind of heaven where you're going when you're a good person? Or maybe if you're a bad person, you're going to some bad place? Reincarnation, I heard about it, but
Oh yes, yes. We have to be believe like this. Of course, the formula of this just now I mentioning about this karma is that when we are doing the bad action all the times, and it is possible to us to go to the bad bad destination after death. But when we are doing the good action all the times, and we are it is possible to us to go to the good destination after death, to the heaven. That is so in Buddhism we have the heaven and also the hell. So the bad action leading to the hell, the good action leading to the heaven. But remember, there's the so-called mental training. Sometimes it happens just split second. That means, of course, all the time perhaps some people doing the bad action, but in the moment of dying, and then all the good things happens. I mean, it's like he understand what is a good, what is bad, and then he try to let go the bad action. Even one split second, it can happen. It can happen that that person after death to be born in the heaven. It can happen. For example, it is in Buddhism. There is one story. I mean, in the Buddha's time, one story. There is one person. His name is Angulimala. when he was as a young person and being misled by his teacher, and then he killed thousands of people, not just only hundreds of people, but thousands of people. He killed thousands of people. But then, even though he killed thousands of people, he met the Buddha and practiced the teachings of him very serious, intensively. And then not only does he, becoming good person, very good person, but even he can get rid of all the defilements of mind. And in Buddhism, the main purpose of practicing the Buddha's teaching is not the good birth, not the heaven. Remember, not the heaven, but how to get rid of all these kind of the sung. I mean, this journey is the death and birth. Even the heaven, according to Buddhism, even though that is a happiness, all are happiness, but because of this impermanency, that heaven is also considered as a part of dukkha, a part of suffering. So in Buddhism, practicing the teachings of the Buddha is how to get rid of all these birth and death. And these Angulimala, even though he already killed thousands of people, but by practicing the teaching of the Buddha very serious, very intensively, becoming the better, even the much better person, and then even he can get the highest spirituality in Buddhism. So therefore, even though, for example, in the past we are doing a lot of bad things, just forget it. The most important now, here and now, because we cannot go back. Now we feel like we have the remorse, we are disappointed why we are doing bad things in the past. We cannot change what already gone. We cannot change the past. The most important in Buddhism, I mean, what the Buddha said, now, here and now, we are doing our best. When now we are doing our best, even now, for example, the whole life we are doing the bad things, and then we are now facing the death, and now we when facing the death, and then we really try our best to be better person in that deathbed. It is possible for that persons even to be born in the heaven, because the most important is not the future, not the past, but now in this very moment. That is the most important. So that's
Okay.
what I want to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
Okay. So we only have 5 minutes left. So is
Shaula,
okay, Kak Shaula, please.
thank you. Thank you, Bhikkhu, for your explanation. It was very clear to me. But maybe you can help me explain a confusion I have. When I go to, I've went to several temples in Jakarta and also out of Jakarta. And what I see there, that there are gods and goddesses being revered, but there's also Buddha. But the thing is that to me, it seems different. For instance, once I saw a lady burning incense and then holding her wallet over it. So that to me does not seem like a detachment of material things. Can you explain that to me? Whether the similarity or difference, or is it allowed to coexist? Thank you.
Yeah, actually, we have to understand. Thank you very much for the question, Mrs. Saula. Yeah, we have to understand that Buddhism coming from India and then spreading to many countries, to China, and then to Sri Lanka, even to the Greek, and then to Indonesia in the past. So when Buddhism spreading to various countries, sometimes the local belief also being taken or adopted by Buddhism or by Buddhist people. So these Buddhist people, while practicing the teachings of the Buddha, sometimes they also cannot let go the local belief that already they believe. So this is what happened. That when Buddhism coming to or going to many countries, and then they have the various kinds of traditions actually uh, look like it is Buddhism, but actually not Buddhism. But the Buddha himself, you see that the Buddha was living in the time when the traditions, the culture, and the various kinds of like Indian traditions are very spreading at the time, very much tradition at the time. So somehow even the Buddha himself sometimes adopting some traditions which is still beneficial, but sometimes the Buddha also not adapting, but the kind of the syncretizing the certain traditions that already there in his time, and then after being taken and then make it better, make it beneficial. For example, like this, the Buddha was meeting one person. He was worshipping the six directions. The name is the Sigala. When the Buddha met that person, that young Sigala, and then he asked, why you are doing this, respecting, worshipping the six directions? And the young Sigala said, oh, because I just follow the instructions of my father, my parents. Before they died, and they instruct me to worship these six directions. And the Buddha did not say that, oh, this is wrong, this is not beneficial, this is not having the good thing. But the Buddha said, oh, in our teaching also has the way how to worship the six directions. What is the way of the worshiping the six directions? Is by worshiping our parents, worshipping the husband, worshipping the wife, worshipping the children, worshipping the friends, the teacher, and worshipping the, if you are boss, for example, and then you have the people working with you, and then worshipping the people working with you, the workers. So this is the way how to worship the six directions. So this is kind of a syncretism, syncretize one try to be Buddhist. But of course, there are some traditions which the Buddha reject, because that tradition is giving harm, not beneficial at all. So that is being rejected. For example, the traditions like killing, like there is one ceremony, and then they have to kill animals, and then the Buddha reject. Oh, this is not giving beneficial, because that killing is somehow with any reasons, whatever reason that people kill, that is bring harm according to Buddhism. So the Buddha reject that ceremony, that kind of traditions. So here, with regard to this, like worshipping the god or goddesses, in Buddhism, actually we believe that there are some god and goddesses, and but those are actually the still the creature, still the being. The beings who are living in the heaven, we call as the Deva. Now, Deva in English is the God. So they worship the Deva, and they worship the God because some people worship the God because of to be born in the heaven is not easy. We have to do the good things. We have to do the wholesome action in order to be born in the heaven, in order to be God. So therefore, when they worship to the God with that kind of thought, that I also want to be God, I also want to be born in the heaven by means of doing the good things, that's good. But if they go to that God and then asking this and that, and of course it is actually not Buddhism. It is not Buddhism. Because in Buddhism, the things that we have to emphasize in our lives, that how we have to make an effort within ourselves, not to ask something from others, from other sources, but we have to, do the good things in our life. That is not Buddhism. But somehow that kind of things are already, sometimes mixed up within the Buddhist community, within Buddhism, and some people who don't understand thinking that is Buddhism, but actually not Buddhism. But somehow the most important is that when we are doing the three things that I just mentioned, not doing any evil things, doing the good things, purify our mind, that is the main teachings of the Buddha. That is the most important. And if there are other things that not in concomitant, not in agreement with these three things, that means it is not the teachings of the Buddha. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your explanation. That was very clear to me. Thank you.
Anumodana Bante, terima kasih atas penjelasannya. Karena
Ya.
waktu sudah lewat 3 menit, I will let Ibu Ardi to close the session. Ibu Ardi akan menutup sesinya untuk pada hari ini ya, Bante.
Baik. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Noni, and a big thank you to Bante or Pabito. I'm not sure how to address you.
Yeah, you can address Bante also.
I certainly have enjoyed very much your talk for 1.5 hours, and I'm pretty confident that I speak on behalf of all my colleagues that they've enjoyed very much learning a little bit more about Buddhism. I think we were perhaps a little bit ambitious to think that in 1.5 hours we could pose all the questions that we may still have. Nevertheless, I think that for many of us, by listening to you, we understand a little bit better, and maybe we can also on our own start reading a little bit more. One of the thoughts that came to my mind listening to you is that many more people in the world need to listen and understand about the teachings of the Buddha, and we might find ourselves in a better place than where we are now. Maybe as a little background to you and also perhaps to the colleagues who have listened in, we came up with this idea knowing that within our team we have people of different faiths, different beliefs, different religions, and as an organization we feel it's very important for everyone to feel part of the team, to be included, to be themselves also in their religious and for each other to accept the differences, but also to feel safe to be confident and to express your own views and your own religious feelings, etc. So thank you very much in helping us as a team also. Yeah. One other thing as a team that we very much value, apart from inclusiveness, is care for the environment, which I think is a major concern for many of us. And as a little token to express that attachment, we have as small gifts that we give to people who give presentations like you've just done, is a bamboo coffee mug.
Oh, thank you very much.
And so symbolically, I would like to say thank you and hand over this mug. As you can see, the Dutch also like orange, like Buddhists.
Oh,
I'm not
really?
sure that's
Oh, yeah,
that's
that's good.
probably just a coincidence. But thank you very much, and I'm sure that amongst ourselves we will continue to talk about the different teachings that you've shared with us today. And once again, thank you very, very much. And the mug will come your way. All the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bante, especially for being here today. It's a great session, and I hope you all get the benefit from what the Bante had said. Okay, maybe we see each other in another session. Take care.